We always appreciate it. We know it's probably been a long, tedious week for everybody. So we appreciate that you are here. We have a real treat for you. We have so many spectacular presenters today. I can't wait. So I just want to give a special shout out to Carla Vander. She's a professor at Mary Baldwin, and she emailed me earlier in the summer and heard about our webinars and wanted to know a little bit more about them. And she actually put our webinars in her syllabus. So she has sent every webinar that we've had, she sent 30 to 35 students to our webinar. So thank you for your support, Carla. I appreciate it. And of course, thank you to Mike and Jared, our Virginia CEC folks, President and Vice President, Lisa Morin, and I could not have done it without you. We've had a lot of fun this semester. So thank you for that. And I think we're gonna have a wonderful night.
Yeah, double welcome. Yeah, double thanks for everyone for coming.
Are we advancing the slideshow? Thank you. Well, I already talked, so you can skip me.
Yeah, double thank you to everybody and welcome to everybody coming in. I know it's been a very fun, exciting couple months here in schools and a very, very exciting week. So it's been a lot of fun working with ECLD on these, and it's been a very worthwhile adventure. And again, if you want to go back and rewatch one of the old webinars, they're all online. There are some plans to kind of see what else we can do with them. But yeah, so definitely check them out on YouTube to see what all fun and all the other instructional stuff we've got out there.
Can I just interrupt you, Mike? I'm so sorry. One of our professors from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia just checked in. So hey, Nuf, good to see you. I'm so excited. She probably is from the farthest away. So sorry, Mike, I just need to say hi.
That'd be good.
That makes this an international webinar.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I love it. I love it. Mike, do you want to tell them how about the chat and kind of how?
Oh yeah, so if you guys need anything to chat, feel free to post any questions, comments you got in the chat. There's a couple of us who are going through and moderating as it goes through, and we'll pop up questions as it goes. There's captions at the bottom. If you don't want to see the captions, just go through and hit captions and you can hide them too. Trying to think what else. Very end of this session, there will be a certificate, so that you'll see a link and you'll be able to click on the link and it'll email you a certificate within about 3 business days. If you don't get it, just shoot me or Lisa or Mindy or Jared an email and we'll help you get that sorted out.
And there's also a link to the presentation and to the YouTube video that will be available at the end of the session too.
Yeah, there's also, the link is now in the chat. Thank you, Jared.
Awesome, yay.
And that's exactly how the chat works. You ask a question, we'll try to answer it. Maybe more timely, depending on the question, but we'll make sure we get to it.
Awesome. All right.
Yep. So
I will stop sharing my screen.
Mike, do you want to introduce our?
Yeah, so as it goes through. So first up, we've got lots of great speakers today. The first 2 are actually 2 of my very cool, awesome, very cool people from Radford University, from the Virginia Inclusive Practices Center, who'll be talking about some different inclusive practices. We have Dr. Altieri and Dr. Minarik, who will both be sharing lots of great information with you all this afternoon. Sharon,
I'll be sharing just a second.
Sounds good.
My screen just flipped on me.
Yes, it did. While we're getting started, we'll just tell you that Karen Douglas is the 3rd co-director of the Inclusive Practices Center at Radford University. And we really started this with a little tiny Dean's grant. We currently have some funding from the Virginia Board of People with Disabilities. We'll be telling you a little bit about that work. But we also, this is just one of our service responsibilities. So we're missing Karen today, but we wanted to make sure that you knew she was a part of our team.
All right, so I guess we are ready to go here. So Liz and I wanted to begin by sharing a little bit with you all about what we do here at Radford University, and specifically with the Virginia Inclusive Practices Center. We've had a number of projects. The Virginia Inclusive Practices Center started a few years ago in the brains of myself and Liz, walking down the hallway and talking to our then Dean Ken Akali, who said, "Why don't you all start an Inclusive Practices Center?" And we said, "Sure," and that's how it became a reality. Some of the things that we've been doing since we came into this a few years back, Liz and I partnered with the Virginia Department of Ed as one of our first projects, and we created the Inclusive Practices Guide, which is kind of one of the reasons why we're here. We're going to be introducing a few things that are both in that guide that we hope everybody accesses. It's on the Virginia Department of Ed website. The QR code and the link here also provides you access to that, but it is on the DOE website. We also have a project that we're going to explain a little bit more about called the 3Cs Inclusion Project. And we've been offering special topics courses through grants that we've been receiving from the Virginia Department of Education. Some of you may have received notices about that here in Virginia. We've been offering a course each summer on building capacity for inclusive education, and that's for school teams to learn about how to support inclusion in public schools. And then this past summer, we also offered our first inclusive education through co-teaching and specially designed instruction course, and we got rave reviews for that one. So those are kind of our two primary initiatives and our one primary product that we've created out of the Inclusive Practices Center over the last couple of years. And of course, there is more to come. Liz, you want to talk a little bit about the project?
Sure. And I also wanted to say, because some people may not know this, but at Radford University, we've been involved with inclusive education and preparing people to be inclusive educators for the past at least 25 years. But in particular, for the past 14 years, we have a collaborative co-teaching teacher preparation program that pairs elementary students and special education students. And they take very similar coursework and they end up doing a co-teaching field experience. And we're pretty proud of that program. It's small, but we think it's the way to go. So as you can see by my gray hair and Darren's gray hair, and you all know inclusion is not a new thing. But one of the things we had to sit down and talk about is what will it really take for inclusive education to become a way of life, to become part of what we do. And we looked for some funding to get ourselves started. So we envisioned that there are really 3 C's to making inclusion work. One of them that is probably the most significant that we don't give a lot of attention to is this idea of changing the culture of schools to be one of an inclusive culture and of disability awareness and building capacity of every student. The other C is collaboration, and many of you are part of those kind of efforts in your schools, where you're working on increasing collaboration between general and special educators, and co-teaching is certainly a part of that. But the third part that we realize is that schools and school folks also need coaching around the evidence-based practices that really make it work. So in our 3C project, those are the 3 C's, and the goal is enhancing inclusive practice. Want to switch? I think we'll go to our next one, and there we go.
So just a couple quick slides associated with this. So one of the things that we when we're working with these school teams and within the center, and before you even think about co-teaching, is you really need to think about how do you define inclusion? So we've been using Villa and Thousands definition, but we usually have our teams kind of come up with their own definitions based on their needs and looking at their own community. So, looking at inclusive education as a vision and practice, it welcomes, it values, and empowers the diverse academic learners that are within that setting, the social emotional, the language, the communication, the physical, just feeling sense of belonging within the school. And so, we kind of look at those from within the school community, and then also within the general community around the school too. And Liz and I, in addition to the guide, one of the first projects that we had was to really look at the state of inclusion in Virginia public schools. And we did surveys and we learned a lot about how that even though the Virginia Department of Education, all the work that they've been doing, they've been, we've been seeing pockets of inclusion here and there and things and practices being done, but not really schools that are and school systems that are really supporting inclusive education fully within the division. And so what we've been learning through our research and our projects is that the most inclusive schools tend to think in terms of that strengths-based. So they see students in terms of what they can do versus what they can't, the deficit. That students in very inclusive school settings are seen as belonging as full participants in the gen ed setting, first and foremost. And the co-teaching piece is part of that, right? So if you have those co-taught classrooms creating that sense of belonging and that those students belong in that inclusive environment, that's critical. And then finally, the combination of the physical togetherness, the social belonging, the high quality teaching, all those pieces have to be in place in order for you to have an inclusive classroom. And we emphasize presumption of competence, that no student should be seen based on their disability label. And so we really work on that with the schools that we work with. I'm just going to bring these things up. Liz, you want to talk a little bit about the 3 types of inclusion?
Yes, and I am forgetting where we are. Should I have given a little bit more information about what we're doing with our project? Does that come further?
Yeah, so you could, talk, because it falls within this context.
Okay, so we were pretty ambitious with this project. We tried to wrap everything into it that we could think of that we really wanted to happen. And so we sort of have 3 arms that we're working on. One is we chose 2 school divisions that were extremely high need. One, they were not meeting the benchmark set by Virginia Department of Education for having 65% of their students with disabilities included 80% or more of the school day, and or they had greater than 3.5% of kids in separate settings. They also were not meeting benchmarks regarding academic performance for students with disabilities. One of the school divisions in particular had a very high rate of suspension of students with disabilities. And they're also high poverty, federally high poverty areas. So, and to be honest, we also picked ones that we had some connections with. So we're working with Pulaski County and Waynesboro City Schools on this project in particular. And we'll talk about the other piece later, which is we're working with parents and youth with disabilities on becoming advocates for inclusion. But in this particular piece, we have been working with these 2 school divisions, and we've got 12 schools that we're working with. Originally, we thought, we'll just have a sample of 4 schools in this division and 4 schools in this division. And both of these divisions have said, we really want to move towards being an inclusive school division. So here are the things we're looking at and we're trying to help them think about. One is, yeah, it was amazing until COVID hit. But a lot of times when people think about inclusion, they're just thinking about academic inclusion. And they also, a lot of times, just think about co-teaching. And so we look at the practices that we think are really necessary for good academic inclusion. Collaborative co-planning and teaching is absolutely a starred item there. It's at the top of the list. But in addition to those things, we also have to see universal design for learning as part of the curriculum and differentiation, project-based learning, not just using traditional testing, inquiry-based learning, and the piece that I know some of the people participating today have even been doing some research and looking at the issue of when co-teaching is happening, are we also providing that specially designed instruction that comes out of the field of special education? So academic inclusion is a big piece. But there's two other pieces that are equally important. And in some ways, when we've been working with our schools, we've been starting with this social emotional piece first. We look at this issue of how does the school become inclusive and think about the social emotional needs of their teachers and their students. So one is doing a number of disability awareness activities. I want to give a shout out to Winona Elementary School, who have done just this amazing in the past Inclusion Day and disability awareness activities. They've used those VDOE grants, and many of you may have seen the superintendent's memo that came out. Those grants are open right now to try to create some similar disability awareness and inclusion activities in your school. Anti-bullying activities are absolutely important because this is a part of how schools respond to difference. And we know that difference.
I was going to say, I want to give a shout out to the I'm Determined project.
Oh, yes, there you go.
Because of their anti-bullying videos that they have that can be very good tools to use for that purpose.
We also do some working with schools about language and how we talk about disability and how we talk about children with disabilities. One of the big things we try to teach our teachers is that you can give those disability labels in the IEP meetings and in the eligibility meetings, and then we need to stop. We need to stop using those terms of disability. And we need to build in social emotional skills for kids into their IEP meetings. And again, a shout out to Determined. Kids with disabilities need to be not only just present at their IEP meetings, but they need to have a valuable part. The third piece is physical inclusion. We think about the fact that the Americans with Disabilities Act has made all our schools technically accessible. We have found that sometimes it's painful, but we have to help schools look at the fact that if you have a disability, you have to be left off here in a separate area, completely away from where everybody else is entering school together. And of course, again, that's changed a little bit with COVID. Classroom access to activities after school. And part of this physical inclusion is certainly that idea of involving the community as part of your inclusion effort.
Mike, I want to check Mike and Jared in terms of time. What are we looking at? About 4 more minutes or so?
4 or 5 minutes. Yeah, 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So as Liz was mentioned, and we're just going to share a few more things with you all, but we're doing a lot of things with the project, and obviously you can contact us if you have additional information about that. But we wanted to kind of, set the stage for you all in terms of what is inclusive practice and how co-teaching is so vital to making that happen. And that's what we're learning through our work, is that good co-teaching teams and a good inclusion plan that includes co-teaching within that plan and supporting co-teaching within that plan is a critical piece. So, and that's what if you look at this list, we talk about division-wide inclusion action plans, which our 2 divisions are looking at. It's so critical to get buy-in from administration and support, looking at ways of changing schedules and to support co-planning and inclusive practice, looking at flexible ways, creative ways to use those resources, creating that culture of inclusion, and that's what Liz was talking about changing those negative perceptions and focusing on that presumption of competence, and then the co-teaching piece, and of course now, we know that we're time constraints, but we're really realizing, technology does really help us in terms of being able to collaborate. We've had to use it more than ever before through COVID. So, that's something that I think that we can really use to our advantage to strengthen inclusion in the future.
I wanted to add to this that each of those 12 schools we're working with have developed an inclusion action plan, and they have a team that meets regularly. They've set some goals. We're going to talk about those goals. They've set some goals. But unless each school makes a commitment to creating this action plan, then co-teaching sort of ends up existing in isolation of this larger vision and this larger plan. When we talk about honest assessment, we had a picture up earlier, but I'm going to show you this book. We used Villa and Thousand's self-assessment of best practices around inclusive education and had schools really look at this to get an idea of the objectives that they might be able to use towards moving towards inclusive education. We have included for you a link to a blank inclusion action plan and also a sample inclusion action plan, one that is filled out. You want to talk about the co-teaching lesson plan template?
Yeah, and then there's also a couple co-teaching lesson plan templates. These are used by our pre-service educators, and also one that was developed through a book that I had co-authored a few years ago with a professor from the University of South Carolina called Social Studies and Exceptional Learners, which was one of the first K-12 books ever put out that addressed inclusive practice for social studies in K-12 education. And so we used one of those 2 lesson plan templates was utilized in that text.
And when you look at the sample inclusion action plan, we basically asked each school to have a minimum of 3 goals. One was around that whole idea of disability awareness and creating a culture of inclusion. The other one was a goal specifically around collaboration. And another one was a goal around the professional development that they needed to do and the coaching that they needed to put those practices in place. So we wanted to share with you a sample school goal for co-teaching. And this was a whatever grade, and their goal was to co-plan all math units in order to enhance co-teaching, because they were co-teaching, but they weren't co-planning. So they identified the co-teaching team and a common planning time. They created and used a co-teaching lesson plan template. Then they decided, in terms of, you'll notice they built everything in here, that they were going to expand their own professional development and utilize the VDOE co-teaching mathematics lesson plans. And we don't have this on here, but there's a fabulous new guide that's out right now on mathematics strategies for students with disabilities. That's on the VDOE website. And then they said that all their general and special ed teachers will have attended at least one co-teaching training. So this was very ambitious. We were very proud of this school.
I haven't looked, Liz, if anybody's at this training or this webinar.
I didn't see any familiar names, but you never know.
So, what we want y'all to realize, just as a final thought, is that schools, schools that are successful, they really have a strong emphasis on collaboration, and they have that strong leadership support piece. And we don't want you to be doing co-teaching in isolation. You really need to be thinking about the bigger picture. Yeah, and I noticed too in the chat, Judith Fontana, she mentioned the Real Co-Teachers of Virginia and TTAC Online, and Liz and Karen and I have actually used some of those video segments, you know, with our inclusion teams to talk about how can you use those in the classroom. So definitely that's something to really.
I want that shirt too. Ask Darren where you get the shirt.
Yeah, I have no idea. That was I've been looking for one of those. You know, it's the Vanilla Ice shirt. So.
They do. There are great co-teaching lesson plans. If you'll go to TTAC Online, they have Real Co-Teachers of Virginia, and they have a high school one, middle school, and elementary. And I was just looking at the middle school ones. They've got English, they've got math, they've got social studies, really great stuff.
All right.
Thank you. Sorry, we probably went over our time.
Yeah, my buzzer went off like 2 minutes ago.
Hey, does anyone have any questions for Drs. Altieri and Menard?
Someone's asking for permission to access the document. And so this is just a very quick Google lesson, but if you'll right click and you'll copy it or you download it, you don't need to have access to that document.
Yeah, just go up to the corner, go to File, and then just say make a copy, and they'll make a copy to your Google Drive folder.
Wow.
You don't have to request access.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was, I can't wait to dig into those resources that you shared with us. It was really amazing. So moving on to our second dream team, we have two professors from Marymount University, Dr. Clara Houth and Dr. Catherine Thompson Martin, and they are going to present a different aspect of co-teaching. So please welcome Clara and Catherine. And the same holds true if you would like to chat or ask a question, feel free to communicate through the chat, and we'll bring the questions to them if we want to. I don't know. I don't know.
It's all
I'm
good.
going to go with that. Just go, Clara.
I know. I was going to say, Mindy, I'm going to jump in.
Yes, yeah.
You were awesome. So I'm Clara Houth, and my fabulous colleague Catherine. You can see our. Why did I put that picture in there? I don't know. So we're just going to skip over that one. We are both educators. We've both spent years and years in the classroom, and then are also now educating the teachers of tomorrow, hopefully, in our coursework as well. So at least at Marymount, one of the things we focus on is our PK6 and secondary students all have to take a collaboration class. And that's fairly new. And so we've been able to really engage across the board in those discussions on inclusion. And thank you so much, Liz and Darren, for sharing that incredible research and the programs that you're putting forth in the state. It's fabulous. I also can't wait to get to those resources when I'm teaching. Thank you. So I'm going to get started, Catherine, if that's okay with you. We jump back and
for it.
So that's where we talk over each other, around each other, and jump in a lot. But one of the things we wanted to share today are both the challenges and the celebrations of co-teaching. And having been in the field with where you all are now or will be, we have very sympathetic ears to a variety of situations that are happening currently, especially with virtual co-teaching. And we want to focus not just on the challenges, but also on the celebrations, because the amount of work that those of you who are co-teaching right now are doing and making this a success for students in your classrooms, we applaud you, and we're just very grateful for the time and attention that you're doing. So I want to start with a thank you, and I will round it out with a thank you. So we know that the switch to virtual co-teaching has really changed the dynamics of special education classrooms and inclusive classrooms, all classrooms, I should be saying, and that the needs for co-teaching really haven't changed. So we still need to work on our collaboration, our co-planning, working with administrators, families as a team. And that's what co-teaching is all about. It's a we process. So how are we continuing to do that online with hybrid, high flex environments? And Catherine and I are going to speak to that a little bit. Actually, Catherine is more so. And what do we see as a community of teachers? What do we want to see stay the same, and what do we want to change? Sorry, my dog is barking. Our online environment has changed, but some in very good ways. So we also need to make sure that we need strong co-teaching teams to support all learners, and that's the crux of what we're going to be talking about today.
Oh, the challenges. Can I get how many people to raise their hand today?
I'm up. I'm in.
Oh my goodness. Does everybody have enough time to plan? Can I get a yeah?
No.
No.
Not at all. Not at all.
No, amen. Planning. It is not on our side, is it? And I tell you, I know a lot of people have been given additional classes that they haven't ever taught before, or heavens, if you're a new teacher learning new curriculum, and now all the materials that were available before now have to be migrated to other environments that are COVID friendly. And then I know having new teams, gosh, Clara, that's hard. That is really hard.
One of the hardest things that I found even in co-teaching originally was just not only having the time, but building those relationships with the teachers that I was working with. And it's, yes, we're building them virtually, but at the same time, there's nothing better than being able to feed off of one another's nonverbal communication as well. So building teams is really, really important in the virtual environment, making sure that we're taking care of each other and learning in new ways. I think one of the other things, Catherine, that really we really talk about a lot is keeping the main thing, which is what? It's all about our students. I mean, this is why we are doing what we're doing. It's about the students. So when we're in new situations, when we're in older already established situations with co-teaching, we've always got to focus on the students. And that's changed somewhat in the virtual environment as well, because some of us are teaching in the classroom, some of us are teaching from our couch, some of us are teaching from our porch, and we've got to collaborate and get together and make sure the students that are in those virtual environments or in the classrooms with us are all getting what they need. And sometimes it really does take that village and that time. And Catherine, I'm going to jump to you with the behavior supports because boy, we've had those conversations lately.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, like Clara, how many times have you and I presented together, and especially in person, we just, but even virtually it takes some time and we both trust each other. I mean, that trust part is a big part. And then like you just said, the nonverbals, behavior supports. Oh my gosh. Think about how difficult it is for many of our students, any student for that matter. I look at my own kids. I have kids in high school and they struggle keeping track of assignments on a normal day. Well, now you've got the virtual environment, which makes it even increasingly difficult. So making sure that they're set up with the proper planning systems, that they're able to devote a certain amount of time, et cetera, to projects. Believe it or not, what I am finding is that many of my students that have struggled more with executive functioning, some of them are thriving in this environment. And a reason that I'm finding they're thriving is we have a consistent planning. So everybody's using certain types of planning systems and reinforcing that. And I think that is awesome if you're working on teams to be able, especially if you're at a secondary level or even at the elementary school level, to be teaching that across classrooms, across curriculums and grade level. Hey, at the beginning of class, this is what our goals are. This is where you're going to take your notes. And then really focusing and being explicit in teaching. When I'm going through something, if you don't understand something, you can send me a chat or you can send their co-teacher a chat. Write it down. Many times students will not understand something and then just blow it off, right? How many times do we do that in our own lives? And then say, yeah, I'll get back to it. And then you never do. So like having that and saying, okay, did you take that self-advocacy piece as well into that? And I think the executive functioning, you're right on, Clara. Is there something you want to add to that too?
Nope, I think you got it. I think and we're going to talk about, Catherine's going to share an example a little bit later. So I had to add the last one because I know that each and every one of you is giving over 1,000% right now. Not only were you giving 1,000% before, now you're giving well over. And honestly, that self-care piece, and I'll say it many times, is really important. Not only taking care of yourself, taking care of your team so that you can be the best possible teachers for our students. So we talked a little bit about time and time. And I know that many of you already know these things, but making that conscious effort within your day and within your schools and within your teams to make sure that you've got the time for everyone. I can't tell you the number of people who say, well, I'll just start a Google Doc, Catherine. I'll just start a Google Doc and you add to it, then I'll add to it, and we're done. We planned. And we all know in a perfect world, we don't have a ton of time, but if we're not willing to put the time and effort into having these conversations, we can start with that Google Doc, but we have to talk about it. What's happening next? Those co-teaching lesson plans are fantastic. That's a great place to start. Just start putting things in. What are we doing? That type of thing. And then making sure that you're communicating effectively on your calendars. Have one joint calendar perhaps that you both can be working on together, because there's nothing worse than saying, oh, wait a minute, you didn't go to that meeting? I'm sorry, what? You know, the IEP was yesterday? That's not a good plan. So we want to make sure that you all are aware of this, but taking those couple extra minutes to set up your planning schedule, to have time together to actually communicate about what you're going to be teaching. And I know, as difficult as it is, you got to do it well in advance. If you're planning the night before, you are running like a gerbil on a wheel. And as hard as it is, it doesn't get any easier. So take it from an old teacher who's done this for a long time. If you can get some planning in as a team, you've got it. You're going to be ahead of the game, and you'll really be able to invest in your lessons and make sure that they're exactly what needs to happen during the time, virtually or in person.
And I was just going to piggyback, Clara. That was great. I was just going to piggyback and say, sometimes we're paired with teachers that have inequities in technology skills too.
True.
And as we migrate virtually, it does take more time. And I think there are many positives, and Clara and I are going to show you some great tech tips, but we do need to be more intentional. So when we're planning our lessons, how are we going to measure who understands what? When we're doing our groupings and our co-teaching models, what are we going to use? And then what do we do with our high flyers, students who already understand it? So all of those things that we may have already had in the classroom, now we have to migrate those materials to a virtual environment, which can have some inequities in comfort level. And that's when we get back to what Clara talked about initially with those co-teaching partnerships and trust. And sometimes I find some co-teachers will take the lead on the technology in that sense. And then the other thing, just as the previous presenters, which I love their presentation as well, Clara, said, I think that this is an awesome time for our general education teachers and our special education teachers to become more knowledgeable about some of the accessibility features that our students with disabilities can truly benefit from. I mean, Google, for example, has numerous accessibility features that are very simple and embedded into general education curriculum and access, and showing that, and again, being explicit in our instruction throughout. That's all I was going to add.
That's a great ad. And I think you talk more about technology in a few minutes too.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not going to steal your thunder on that.
Oh, no.
I'm going to just go back to, and I think we've all been speaking to this, and I feel like I'm speaking to the choir, is that building teams is the crux of what we are doing. You want to get to know one another, whatever your tool you're using, whatever communication piece you're using. There's a free one. Actually, Teachers Pay Teachers has a fabulous free one on a co-teaching contract. The book that we did also has a fabulous walk through on roles, responsibilities, and honest appraisals of the things that we're good at and the things that we're not so great at, right? So not everybody's good at everything. One of the great things about co-teaching, at least I found in my co-teaching pairs, is that one of us usually has a better grasp on something than the other. And that's great because then we can bounce and we can share that responsibility across the board. I think this was already spoken to as well, but that power of we language, and we say it, we talk about it, and we say, we're gonna do this and it's gonna happen. And then I'll be sitting in a meeting or I'll be watching a co-teaching lesson unfold. And there's a lot of, you need to take your kids out of the room or make sure your kids are in that breakout room. And I've got to step back and get off my soapbox, but come back in and say, it's a we thing. So please make sure when you are doing some breakout sessions that it's not always those kids, they're our kids. So thank you for letting me do that. That was really, really important for me.
They still serve peanuts?
So, I don't know who still sells peanuts. So I just said that we have strengths individually and collectively, and how are we going to utilize those strengths with co-planning, co-instructing, and co-assessing? You can't do it all. So you need to lean on each other. You need to find the strengths, whether the technology piece, or the planning piece, whether it's the jump in and tell the story piece. Where are you comfortable in co-teaching? And then do you recognize the variety of models? And it's not just 6 of them. There are lots of different models of co-teaching. We teach 6 in our teacher preparation programs, but honestly, there are many ways to co-teach together and build that classroom, build that team together. Go tech.
Yeah. Now this is not exhaustive, guys, at all. So I bet, and I'm really looking forward to the co-teachers after us. I know Allie's one of them, but the other ones too. Zen, I think it was.
Lynette.
I'm forgetting names.
And Lynette, yeah.
And Lynette, okay. Yeah, all of their presentations, and I'm confident we're going to learn a lot more than what I have to talk about. But definitely the co-planning time, being intentional about that, which we've talked about. If you're using a technology like Zoom or even I heard Google's going to be coming out with one soon too. The breakout rooms are awesome. What a great way to be able to work with groups. And I can tell you, for example, what I do right now is I'm co-teaching Algebra 2. And in my Algebra 2 class, we start class with the warm up and quickly are able, and we do that through Google Forms. And we're able to quickly see who understands a certain concept and who does not understand a certain concept. And we use that data, and I mean, it's very fast for our breakout groups. So we are intentional in our breakout groups. Now, there are different models. You guys know, I'm sure everybody does here, about the 6, but we like to use a lot of station teaching and even parallel teaching. So what we'll do is take that data and put students into groups and either have parallel teaching or station teaching. There are several links. I can put them in the chat too, but they're also on this slide right here. I can click. I don't know if I want. One of them is a YouTube on how to make a choice board if you guys haven't used it before. Why I like choice boards is it allows me and my co-teacher, what we do is we take our data and we find out, gosh, this student is really struggling in this area. And it might not even be an exceptional ed student. It might be another student as well. We put them in a certain group, and then I will usually work with the struggling students. And then she'll take other students in the middle group. And then we have other students working on choice boards. And those let me just link to one. I have a tic-tac-toe right here. That's all
I would
right.
love it if you would do that, Catherine. I was just going to interject.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I already opened it over here just in case we want. Yeah, here we go. So I'm just going to show this to you. I actually stole this online. I have a few.
Borrowed.
Yes. Okay. Borrow. That's a better word, Clara. You're right.
We do borrow. We're teachers.
We do beg, borrow, and steal, right? So here we've got our choice boards here, and students, it's super easy to create through Google Slides. You can use this as a template. We'll use this for any, and we'll give students choices like these are the 9 different areas that I want you to work through. Once you finish them, we're going to put an X in it and tic-tac-toe, so that's just an example, and you can use this in a variety. So I teach mathematics, so we might have domain and range in one, we might have zeros and solutions in another one, might have factoring in another, but you can design this and you don't have to do 9 different choices either. So that is an option for you guys to do. We also I have a YouTube video on how to create it. You guys can Google your own too. It is not that hard. Trust me, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I love the breakout rooms. They've allowed me to do, as the first presenters, Liz and, oh goodness gracious, I wrote his name down on the other page, but I apologize. Darren mentioned, it's very important to have our specifically designed instruction strategies. And that's where a lot of that can take place. And if you find that it's not taking place, then meeting them, if your school district has embedded some instructional time as well, that's separate from classroom time in an intervention block, then you can pull a few kids and really work on some of those goals as well. Is there anything you wanted to add, Clara, to this?
No, I apologize, guys. We only have about, we really should wrap it up in the next 5 minutes.
Oh, man.
I don't want to
Okay.
have any. So I'm going to go through this one quickly, but again, establishing those routines, thinking differently, right? Each teacher can do so many things. So one person can be running a Padlet, another one can be getting information from the Padlet that the students are doing. Or they're on, one with a small group. Sorry for the typo there. I think one of the big pieces that we forget about is that flexibility piece. I have a quick story, a co-teaching story. I taught math as well at the middle school level, and I was a co-teacher with 4 different co-teachers. But one of the great things about that was I was able to co-teach. Second period always was a struggle. By the time we got to 6th period, we had it down. So I was able to bring things from different classrooms that I knew students were going to be struggling with. And one example is I flew into a classroom one day and said, I don't know what we're going to do. My husband's trying to paint the deck and he's making an absolute mess and it's never going to work and he's spending too much money. And of course, what were we doing? We're doing surface area, right? And so all of a sudden, all the students looked up and said, well, what do we do? I said, well, I need your help. We got to get started. And my co-teacher, I saw Patty's face. She was like, what is she doing? Right? But she trusted me enough. We had a good enough relationship where she just let me go with it. By the end of the period, every single person knew exactly how much paint Pete had to buy. And it was amazing. And the next day they said, okay, so what color? And I said, well, we're going to have to go look at color, so just building those stories, building those relationships we know is key, but building trust and being flexible with your planning, especially with online environments, go with it. If the students are learning, go with it.
And then I'll just speak very quickly. I love Screencast-O-Matic. I don't know if you guys use it. The reason I like it is because it transcribes, and many students with disabilities benefit from obviously that transcription and need it. And also it does help our students with learning disabilities to see those words. So you can transcribe it and you can even transcribe into multiple languages. Google Slides for interactive presentations. There is so much, and I encourage you, if you do see Google Slides for interactive presentations, it is awesome. And you can really embed a lot of fantastic co-teaching models into some of your presentations. We don't have enough time. We need another hour and a half for that. I love Pear Deck. I love Pear Deck for the we do part of our presentation, not the I do in the direct instruction. It's another technology that allows you, that students can easily access, and you can get that real-time feedback back immediately from students to see if they understand concepts enough. enough. My new love is Microsoft OneNote, and I'll show you that in a second. And again, the breakout rooms. And I can't understate also how the importance of students just understanding the accessibility. I just wanted to show you really quick my OneNote file. This is actually from yesterday. This is one of my Algebra 2 classes, and I love OneNote. If your school district has Microsoft, it is free. And students can do a virtual binder. In many ways, I actually think that it can help our students that are a little bit of the disorganized student.
Oh gosh, Catherine, say that again.
Yeah, right. Can I screen
Go
it over?
executive functioning skills.
Yeah. But you can see different lessons are in here. I actually teach now from this. And what's really cool is I can make it larger. And I find for students with autism spectrum disorders, how many of them struggle with the handwriting piece of it. What's really cool is you can actually, through this lasso, your math, and it actually converts it automatically to math, which is super cool. So we don't have enough time to go over these technologies, but I wanted to share this. You can even, some school districts allow you to set up your Microsoft Notebook, a teacher notebook. And in addition to that, you can have your students' notebooks. You can even check their notes to see if they're taking good notes or not. Oops.
Catherine, I love it. Are you breathing?
I know, right? Did I come up for air?
We actually have a little bit more time. So if you want to add any other tech tips, you're welcome to do so, because I know this year with virtual teaching, one of the things we've had to do is kind of just learn on the go. I call it, we're learning how to fly the plane while we're in the plane, right? Or build the plane while we're in the plane. So I know there's a lot here. One of the things that I work with student teachers is I constantly saying, grasp one, take one and run with it. Whether it's Pear Deck, whether it's Screencast-O-Matic, whatever it is, get really good at that, and then challenge your co-teacher to get really good at another one. And that way you can throw variety in there a little bit, but you also have some consistency in the knowledge base of your co-teachers, and then your students benefit from both. It's an absolute dream. So celebrating your teams, I think that's the piece that we forget. And I can tell you, each and every one of you have forgotten this. And that's because we're so busy trying to do everything perfectly that we forget that we're human. So please accept that things will not always go as planned. And plan B can be just as effective as plan A. Also, be willing to change roles and address issues in the classroom as a team as soon as possible. Everything is a teachable moment. Everything. I make mistakes. I used to make mistakes on purpose in the classroom so my students would catch them so that we could have those conversations. And my co-teacher and I would do that as well. We constantly modeled what we were thinking. We constantly modeled how we should attack something if we didn't understand it, where we could go for support, how we could lean on each other, that someone was always there for you. So modeling those activities are actually will change the lives of so many of the students and children that you're working with. Definitely give each other the grace and the gift of time and grace during these difficult times. We are not in any sort of normalcy in teaching right now, but keeping the main thing, you've got this. You know how to teach. You've been doing this. You've been trained for this. And you've got it. The passion is in your heart and soul, and that doesn't change. The different technologies change, the classrooms change, the way we're teaching changes, but how we teach hasn't changed. And that work of heart is really what keeps us going. Spend some time giving compliments and kudos more, not just to your students, but to each other. I really like the way that Catherine is one of my favorite presenters on the planet, because the energy she brings to the table gets all of us moving and shaking. And there's no downtime with Catherine Thompson Martin, I can tell you that.
Well, I was going to say, what you just said was so beautiful, Clara. I was like, ready to
stop.
tear
It's
up.
a love
Oh my
fest.
God.
Anyway, what I wanted to really say, and it's on the next slide, and Catherine, you can say this and I don't have to say anything more. Go ahead.
Oh, this is so true, guys. And I know this is a hard year, trust me. I mean, I'm feeling it too. I have a kid with hello, it's Friday. I have a child with an autism spectrum disorder. Now she's in college now, but she would not be where she is today without you guys. And it's true. Not only are you in a profession that makes meaningful impact, though some days you're like, what am I doing? You do change lives. I mean, like if you could see her now, she's pretty amazing. And that is because of you. So Clara and I thank you from the bottoms of our heart for helping people with disabilities be included in our world. The end, I guess. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, that was so touching. Thank you. Catherine and Clara and Liz and Darren, aren't you just so impressed by the fact that we have 100 educators in our webinar on a Friday afternoon? I mean, that is so inspirational to me.
It is.
Yeah, because I'm sure they're burnt. I mean, like seriously, it's
a beautiful day. What are you doing here?
Sorry, hey.
We had happy hour, right?
All right.
So glad. We are so glad you're here. And we've got, and I'm going to take your thunder, Mindy, because I know some of these co-teachers that we're going to be talking about today or with today. Some amazing people here with us in the webinar and some fantastic co-teachers who are going to share their special secret sauce with you next.
Yes, thank you for the segue. So we're going to narrow the research to practice gap, and we have actual co-teachers in the classroom right now that are going to be talking about their co-teaching experiences. So to facilitate that session, I've asked two of my former students from Virginia Wesleyan University to ask them the questions. So please welcome Alyssa Ballantyne and Jessica Duncan. Hey, Alyssa. Where's Jessica? Jessica's over there somewhere. So they're going to have the co-teachers introduce themselves, and they will be asking questions. Again, feel free to make any comments or questions in the chat. So Alyssa, would you like to start? Just tell us a little bit about yourself and then carry on.
Oh, there we go. Well, good evening, everyone. My name's Alyssa Ballantyne, and I'm a senior at Virginia Wesleyan. I took Dr. Gumpert's 482 class my junior year of college, and it was about issues in education, and we learned about what we thought is important for when we become teachers in the future. My major is Spanish with the concentration education. I'm not student teaching at the moment, but I will when I do my master's program once I graduate. And I would like to be either a Spanish teacher or I would like to teach ESL for immigrants that come to the United States.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Duncan. I'm a senior as well at Virginia Wesleyan. My major is elementary education, and I want to teach maybe like pre-K to second grade. Right now, I'm doing my practicum. I'm doing first grade at Chesapeake School, and I'm having a lot of fun doing that because it is through online. So everything's online, and I'm having a great time doing that. So this is going to be very helpful because I'm technically co-teaching with my cooperating teacher. So it is very interesting, and I'm glad to be here.
Okay. So for starters, could Miss Allie and Miss Zeh with ZEH introduce themselves? I can't see everyone.
Hi, I'm Allie OJ. I am a special education teacher in Fairfax County, Virginia. I teach at Herndon Middle School. I was co-teaching with Zay Montgomery last year in 8th grade civics. This year, I am teaching 7th grade science.
All right.
And I'm Zay Montgomery. I also work in Fairfax County at Herndon Middle School. I'm a gen ed teacher. This is my 11th year teaching. I was like, and of course, everybody's new this year though, because virtual, nobody knows what we're doing. Yeah, so I worked with Allie last year, and I've worked with 4 other co-teachers, like before Allie, and I have a co-teacher this year. This year I'm co-teaching in ESOL, so like level 1s and 2s. But last year and the past years were special ed.
All right. Next.
Jess, could you introduce the others?
Lynette.
Yeah, the other 2 co-teachers, can you please introduce yourselves?
My name is Lynette Helene Sanders. I am a special ed teacher at Brighton Elementary School. My partner in crime is Miss Cotisha Hargett. And we have worked together for the past 7 years as co-teachers. Even though I've been between, I have 2 grade levels. I'm 3rd and 4th grade. So I'm between 2 different grade levels. And we're in Portsmouth, Virginia, and we've been working together a long time, haven't we, Ms. Hargett? A long time. So it's like a marriage between us. I finish her sentences and she finishes mine.
My name is Cotisha Hargett. I too teach in Portsmouth Public Schools. I've been, like Ms. Helene Sanders said, we've been working together for quite some time. I've been teaching this is my 11th year too. I think yeah. And all 11 years I have been a co-teacher. So that's all I know.
It's great. All right. Lisa, can you put the questions up, please? Jessica, do you have the first question that you can just ask before the PowerPoint gets up?
Mindy, I can put it up.
Yeah, I have the questions like with me. I can just ask the first question. First question's for Allie and Zay. It's like a 3-parter. So if you're ready. So what benefits have you seen for you and your students by co-teaching? How do your students feel about having 2 teachers in the room? And do you think students know that there is a special education teacher in your room?
Allie, did you want to go first?
Sure. I think I know Zay and I are firm believers that 2 heads are better than 1 in the classroom. And I definitely think that our students, when we work together, there are some definite benefits. It gave us an opportunity to kind of work with one another. And because our county, many programs or many schools do have co-teaching or co-teachers, I think the students are kind of used to that. Zay, do you have anything you wanted to add about that?
Yeah, I think so. One of the benefits to co-teaching that I found, and especially working with Allie, is like we have different personalities and we approach things different ways, and it really helps. I think like it's not a competition between the kids, but it helps that you have that because a kid might feel more comfortable like coming to you. Sorry, my daughter's eating dinner in the background. Coming to you and asking for help from you versus your co-teacher, just because of kind of how you present yourself. But I really did love too, like Allie brought a lot of humor where I brought like organization, and I loved that part of working in that co-teaching. And I think the kids always know they're not like we teach middle school, they know what's going on. They're used to having 2 teachers. And I think them though creating the environment where they know they can go to either of us for help, and they know that we're both there to support them is just the important thing, because they're going to know that there's 2 teachers there and kind of why.
Absolutely. And I know at one point, some of our students asked, I know they asked me specifically, they go, do you teach special ed? Which of course that was, absolutely, that's what I do. And I would explain to them that success isn't everybody getting the same thing. Success is everybody getting what they need to succeed and doing, and explaining it to them in a way that they understood that special education itself isn't a negative thing, or having those special services isn't negative. And I think once they kind of grasped that concept, it was like, oh, okay, whatever, that's cool. And I know with Zay, I struggle with executive functioning. You can ask Dr. Thompson, you can ask Dr. Howe. I have zero executive functioning skills whatsoever. I am the definition of ADHD. And working with Zay helped so much, honestly, because I learned from her and all the organization things. But I think that just kind of helped a lot with our students, and it helped show our kids that it's okay to be different. It's okay to have flaws, and not everybody strong suit is one thing or another. And I think that definitely has helped our kids in the long run.
Great. Okay.
Nice. Good answer. I would say the same thing too. And for Miss Sanders and Miss Harrigan?
Target.
Like Target.
Oh, Harget. Cool.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the second question about how do our students feel about having two teachers in the room. One of the things that Harget and I, from the very first moment, we had the approach that we're one. So we don't approach it as I'm a special ed teacher and she's a general ed teacher. I say that I'm a teacher, or I tell them I'm here to support you. So they really don't really ask the question, even though I may be listed on the website as a special ed teacher. I don't necessarily confirm or deny that. Because I don't want, there's some negative connotations a lot of times with special ed, and people say, I don't want to be, with special ed and all of this thing. But my thing is, the only thing Harget now requires, a child has a need. Paperwork does not matter, because they all have to be taught. Everyone has to be taught. No, just some people learn differently. So that's how I approach that. Because I really got two of those, didn't I, right? I think we tell them they're special. We tell them they're special.
Everyone
you know
is
what?
special.
How about that? This is the best room in the building. You know why? They're like, why? You got two teachers. How many people have two teachers? Yeah, you're right. So, hey, they buy into it, and they really meet those expectations we have. We have very high expectations for them. And so the benefits I've seen is by us co-teaching, we complement each other. She knows the content more than I do. I'm okay with saying I don't know it, and how are we going to approach it, and what vocabulary are we using? So we're all on the same page. Go ahead,
And I think that the students benefit from it because they are able to work with two different teachers and with two different teaching styles. And, the students come with different learning styles. And so we approach it that way. They benefit from it because they get to work, like I said, with both of us, and we do the station teaching, and we also do parallel. So we implement the different co-teaching models, and we base that on the data that we get from the students and their abilities, their strengths and weaknesses. And I don't think that they know that there's a special education teacher in the room. And I know that when other visitors come, they cannot tell who are the special needs kids and who are the regular ed kids, because in our room, all of the kids are special and all of the kids are regular.
Good way to put it. I would agree with that. And that kind of goes into like the second question we were going to ask, basically. So how we would go about it is saying like, how has like co-teaching impacted your instruction and teaching style? You guys kind of touched on it a little bit. I'll let you guys speak on it first, and then we'll let Ali and Zay go into it.
Well, go ahead.
No, you go. No, I went first last time. Your turn. You go. Tag your it. Go.
Okay. So, well, as far as it having an impact on my instruction, it goes, like she said, it goes back into what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. And where maybe if it's something that I am weak in, she has the ability, she has the strength And so we can play off each other's strengths and weaknesses. As far as my teaching style, I still have the same teaching style, and she has her teaching style, and we just blend them together. So that's how we help the students, by blending our teaching styles together.
And we tend to use humor, and we use music.
Lots and lots.
We use
of
a
music.
lot of music, and the children know hits from 1970. I mean,
we rock out. I mean, we just
have a good time.
Have fun.
We put some, we put some, today music in there too, just to kind of, build a rapport with them. But we do a lot with music and just how we can integrate it and make it different and make it engaging, and so that they don't get bored. I don't want to get bored. So, I mean, we look at it from their perspective. We try to do a lot of hands-on when we're in the classroom physically. Outside of the classroom, we tend to, we use the breakout rooms and things of that nature. And it's a challenge to make sure that they're getting what they need, but we adapt. That's just how we have to adapt to it.
I have to say one way my teaching style, co-teaching has impacted, because I was, when Miss Hillian Sanders and I first started teaching together, I was the teacher who I would say one thing and then the kids would give me the puppy eyes and I'll fall for it every time. And so she was like, no, say what you mean what you say. And so she had to help me with, being firm in my convictions. So that changed me.
I do what I can.
Okay, go.
Right, I can.
Allie and Zay can share now.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the things that's helped me learn, because I started teaching by myself, and then when I moved to this current school that I'm at, like everybody co-teaches like all the time, and so I think the best thing for me has been I ask for help a lot more now. Like I realized that I didn't have to be like a person show on everything, and so. My instruction, my teaching style, I definitely ask for more help from people, especially my co-teachers. And I think it's really helpful to have that sounding board to like somebody's in there with you, they see the same thing as you, so you can talk and reflect more about it. And so that's kind of how it's helped me out as a gen ed teacher.
As a special ed teacher, co-teaching has definitely helped me out a lot too. This is my 4th year as a special education teacher, actually my 4th year teaching altogether. My very first year, I was in a self-contained Cat B, so I worked with ID students. This year, or the last 3 years, I've been working with students with learning disabilities or emotional and behavioral disabilities. And being at the school I'm currently at, just like Zay, was my first experience with co-teaching. And I definitely got to see that 2 heads in the classroom are better than 1. We can communicate. We are seeing the exact same things, and we're able to kind of bounce ideas off of one another about how to approach a situation or a student better, or what activities we think would be benefit for a student or for a group of students versus not, because we're working together to educate the kids and to, I guess, better educate ourselves too as educators.
Great.
Thank you for your responses. Moving on to the next question. You guys kind of already touched on it in regards to balance, but how hard is it to find balance working with another person? And what advice do you have for creating that positive relationship between you and the other teacher? And whoever wants to share, Allie and Zay can go first, or the other group can go first. It doesn't matter.
I don't think it's hard to find a balance working with Miss Sanders. I know when my first co-teaching experience, I was the newbie, and the veteran teacher was territorial, very territorial. And I mean, it was many days I left there and I was in tears, it wasn't an inclusion environment, but it was still co-teaching. So the year that Miss Sanders came to work with me, we sat down before the students came, And we came to the agreement that this is our class. We both have just as much say in this class as the other. One thing that was important to both of us is that how the students come to us, they will not leave us the same way. And the special needs kids are not your kids. And the regular ed kids are not my kids. They are all our kids, our students. And that's the way we approached it. And that's my advice to, you know, the younger ones that's coming up with in the education field for establishing positive relationships. Just have mutual respect for each other. And for as far as the regular ed teacher, like, not to be so territorial, be willing and able to give the other teacher a say in the classroom. I promise you, it works so much better that way, and the students actually learn better that way. And you're setting up your environment. And you know, we want our environment to be conducive for learning. And if the two teachers are, you know, the kids can sense that, and they will act accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Yep, right.
I can, I'll jump into here. So I've worked with Allie for a year, but before then I had worked with a couple different people with very different personalities. I would say that Allie and I probably worked the best together. And I think finding that person that you work well together is so important. And if your school is willing to let you stay together, that's even better. Like, that's not what happened at our school.
Yeah, we just had it that way.
Yeah, right. But I think that the important thing when you're working with somebody who you might not see eye to eye with is to find that common ground. Everybody's getting into this profession for a reason. And so you just got to find like what's driving them. And then I think the other thing that can really hurt a co-teaching relationship is having those conversations in front of the kids that should not be happening in front of the kids. So taking that time, making sure you're always respecting each other. Like I've had, and Allie knows, I have some stories. I have co-teachers who have fallen asleep on a regular basis in my class and all that. And so it's definitely, you know, but I always tried to keep it positive and respectful between teachers during class. And then you can talk about the stuff after. And that talking about the stuff after is really important to keep that relationship working.
Okay. The other advice as a special education teacher, I would say quickly in terms of establishing a positive relationship, is you have to learn to trust each other, which is very important to trust each other in the sense that if she has an idea that maybe there's something that she sees that I don't see, being that I am like Tigger and I'm springing between two grade levels, it's kind of when I get into the room, I have to kind of get caught up with what's going on. And then she's like, well, Miss Sanders, and she kind of guides me through so I get my momentum and then I go from there. So you just really have to trust each other, have a rapport. I mean, it's just how it is. And so we talk constantly all day using different types of technology. The communication lines have to be open.
Yes.
I'm going to hop in right here. I do agree that communication lines do have to be open. I know Zay and I still communicate with each other about, I guess, different things about each other, our families, schools, how we can support each other in the classroom, even though we don't teach with each other. But we try to keep those communication lines open and readily available. In the off chance we do get to teach coach with each other again next year, fingers and toes crossed. But I know I read something in the chat where somebody said that not all teachers do well in co-teaching situations. My very first year at the school, I was in a really awkward situation where there was a teacher I worked with who did not do very well in a co-teaching situation. And they had a reputation of doing that. It would be like we would plan together and then day of class, and this was pretty regular. I was feeling inspired and changed the entire lesson and did not tell me about any changes or if I needed to make any modifications for certain students, like for example, a graphic organizer, if there was a writing activity. And so it became a situation where trying to find that balance was hard, because I would communicate with her or she would communicate with me. But because we didn't have that constant communication, or because she was an older teacher and I am a younger teacher, there was that age issue. And I'm not saying there's an age issue with all teachers. I just, in this situation, that's what it dwindled down to. So we made it work, and we made it work for ourselves and for our students, but finding that balance was hard, and we didn't end up getting to that balance point until close to the end of the school year. So just stay positive and keep trying.
Mm-hmm.
I really like you guys' answers, especially so like I can have like an idea for myself, like for in the future, if I end up co-teaching with another teacher that might have more experience than me. So I take it as like a good way of thinking about things, and not take it like, oh, I'm trying to be like so territorial and everything. So that goes into the next question, but we've already discussed it, so I'll just skip to the next one. So with that, I would say, how did you respond when you found out that you would be co-teaching? Like once you realized that that would be a possibility within your school?
Well, we didn't really find, I mean, they said you are you are teaching, you're the special ed teacher, Ms. Hargett you're the general ed teacher. That's it. So it wasn't like we were told, because I think when I started, I came in like in the middle. So they had already done the new teacher orientation. I was coming from another district into Portsmouth. I've only been there 7 years. This is my 7th year, although I've been teaching for 20. So they told us that, and we just kind of went from there.
We hit the ground running. It was like the wheels just start rolling, and we just began planning and looking at different things. And I want to add this too, because I've learned so much from Miss Hillian Sanders. I really have. I've learned a whole lot from her, and it has been beneficial to me in that way. A lot of hands-on things, and she is so technology savvy. I'm trying to catch up. I'm trying to catch up with her. It's been working so far. I haven't had to call her since we've been virtual, asking 1,000,001 questions.
You can call anytime, you know that.
Good. And for Ali and Zay, we'll let you guys finish up since we'll be done at 6.
Honestly, when I found out I was working with Zay, I was beyond excited. The co-teacher she worked with the year before me, and I are pretty close. Well, I guess all 3 of us are pretty close. And it was like, hey, guess what? Me and Zay are teaching together. And it was smile from ear to ear, because I knew going into the situation, I was going to grow as an educator, and I was going to learn how to be a fantastic co-teacher. I was going to strengthen my skills in my content area. And I knew it was somebody, I knew I was going into a classroom working with somebody where before we even got into the classroom, it was, we could look at each other and kind of read each other's minds. Honestly, like the best description of a co-teaching experience is an arranged marriage. And that's what it was, but it was an arranged marriage that had a positive, super positive outcome. And it was beyond, a wonderful experience for me. I feel like I learned so much from her. And I feel like I've grown so much as an educator that all of the positives, all of them.
Thank you, Ali. So I would definitely say that Ali has like come into her own as far as a leader in our school. She's running things now and like doing great. And I interviewed her for her position at the school. So I was really excited when like to watch her kind of get her footing and go. So that's awesome. Like it's awesome to hear that. So I really appreciate that. So I would say I was really excited when I found out. And then I also, with Ali, I was able to, not with my other co-teachers, to actually take time. We sat down like at a coffee shop in the middle of the summer and like talked out stuff, we're like, where are you coming from? What do you think? Like, I think it was really helpful to have that before you get into the beginning of the year craziness. So you don't have to hit the ground running if you can avoid it, just to talk it out and kind of see where each other's coming from. And I that was just beyond helpful for me, so that I could start thinking, how are we going to do things together? How are we going to make this the best it can be? So.
Nice. Well, it was nice hearing from you guys, and I appreciate being able to be in this Zoom meeting to like learn more about it and everything. So I would say for the last question, how do you make the co-teaching experience mutual and beneficial for both teachers, regardless of the inexperience of the newcomer or the new teacher coming into the classroom?
Could I interrupt and say this is a lightning round and you have to answer in 30 seconds or less? Ready? Go, Allie.
Starting with me? Oh my gosh. So we worked together pretty closely. We texted each other pretty much every night, making sure that everything was in place, asking for help, talking about communication, and making sure we were putting together the right plan. We're putting the right plan in place for our students. I know as a younger teacher, Zay kind of helped me move into my own shoes and feel more comfortable within my own school or within my own teaching abilities. And helped me be more organized. I feel like I'm only talking about how she benefited me, but teachers, we kind of worked together and we were a great pair, and I'm really upset we're not with each other this year, but it's okay. It'll happen next year. I can feel it. I think my 30 seconds is up.
Yes.
I'll go real quick and super fast. I think that taking the time to plan together, I know that's been said in this, and taking, even though things are crazy and things are busy, taking that time to talk to each other and plan will make it beneficial for both of you, and you both can get what you need out of it, and then put in what you also can give.
Awesome.
So I play off her strengths. She plays up mine, and we both help each other where we are weak at, and we make it so the students benefit from it, because that's what it's all about.
Let's see, 30 seconds, huh? Challenge. So for it to be mutually beneficial for both of us is just, like I said, again, trust is very important. Having a rapport is very important. Being on the same page when you are in front of the children. Children will ask her for something. She says no. They come over to me and I say, well, what did Ms. Hargett tell you? Yep. Did Ms. Hargett, what did she tell you? She said no. Then the answer is no. So you're not going to play us. So that's how we approach it. You know, if she said no, her word is like my word. It's final. When it comes, you asking us something, we're telling you no, it's not time. That's what we mean. And we're on the same page. I had time left?
No, sorry. I was trying to type. I was trying to type mom and dad, because our students always did that too. You always felt like you were the parent in the classroom. If mom said no, go ask dad. And it took a good month to figure out what was happening and that they were totally playing us, but we eventually figured it out. So Lisa, could you skip to the end of our in the end of the questions? Thank you so much to Jessica and Alyssa for facilitating this session. It's hard to get teachers to, follow directions. You guys did a great job. If you look at the chat, I mean, so many people said you're an inspiration. So thank you so much for sharing your stories. I mean, you're in the trenches every day, and we love you and we appreciate you, and we appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. So I would like to just tell you a little bit about what's coming up in the spring. Because our webinars have been so successful, we've had several different organizations reach out to us to collaborate. So we are creating the Virginia Joint Coalition of Learning Disabilities and Literacy. And the organizations that we'll be working with in the spring are the Virginia branch of the International Dyslexia Association, Decoding Dyslexia, AIM Virginia from the Virginia Department of Education, who provide accessible materials for students with disabilities, and several of the Virginia NAACP branches would like to work with us, and which would be a great equity piece for us. So we're working on a needs assessment. We want to continue to provide quality, free professional development for teachers. So we're hoping this coalition will help do that. And we're very committed to, just continuing on the path that we've been going down. I mean, look at it. It's Friday night and we still have 100 participants in this meeting. You guys are amazing and you are an inspiration to us and you're why we do this. So I have to stop talking now. Okay, Mike or Jared, you're up. Or Lisa. Lisa, you have to talk and you have to show them your face. She never wants to say anything.
Okay, yeah, so I'm here. I just want to say a quick thank you to Old Dominion University. They allow us to use their Zoom platform. They allow us to use their registration, which is through the Student Council for Exceptional Children at ODU. So they're one of our sponsors. So I just want to say thank you to ODU.
Jared.
And I also want to say thanks to everyone for being here today. Just to reiterate, it's Friday evening and you could be anywhere else, but you're here with us. And we recognize that. And that's what makes us special, right? One thing I just wanted to mention, if you have any interest in Virginia CEC or the Council for Learning Disabilities, and you don't have a professional organization that you call home, please reach out to one of us because we would love to have you on board and get you involved with their organizations.
If you're a Virginia CEC member, board election stuff's coming out in a couple hours too, on that very note.
So it's a perfect chance to get involved.
All right, Lisa, can you go to the last slide? This is where the link for the certificate of completion, as Mike said, if you fill that out within 3 or 4 days, you'll get your certificate of completion. If you want to continue the conversation, Jared's really good about being on Twitter. We also have a Facebook account, Facebook page. So we'll be happy to continue the conversation with you. And again, we put the links for the presentation and the YouTube video in the chat, so you have access to that. So all this has been recorded. And if this was your first webinar, we have the other 3 webinars that we presented this fall also on YouTube. They'll be on the same link. So thank you, everybody, from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope to see you again in the